Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you to be here again for this new video about another old computer from the 80s. First, I wanted to thank you because the feedback from my last video on the Sinclair ZX81 has been incredible. Thousands of views, hundreds of comments. Wow, it was almost my first video on this English channel, and what a scenario. Really, thank you, merci à tout le monde. It made me very happy. And I promise you will find on this channel a lot of different subjects, mainly old computers or old video game systems, of course, but sometimes focuses on history of video games, or even before that. On my French channel, I made several videos about electromechanical arcade games, for example, from the 60s, 70s, arcade games before the video games. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you, I will put a link of my French channel on the description of this video, and if you are interested, you can go there and watch some videos, even if you don't understand. But if the subject interests you, well, just tell me in the comments of this video, and I will try to make English versions of these videos. So today we're gonna speak about the ORIC computers. This is a small British computer released in 1983. Well, it was announced in 1982, but it was really released commercially in 1983. This is the ORIC-1. This was my first computer when I was 13 years old, and like many of you maybe, this first computer had a huge effect on my career because I became a programmer and I worked in computing and internet technology for many years after that. But that was thanks to this computer. So today we're gonna study it. I'm gonna tell you the story, then we're gonna have a look at the case, at the different connectors. We're gonna open it and see what's inside. Then we're gonna power it on, test the basic language, play some games, old ones and modern ones, and watch a demo too to see what this little beast can do. 1 year after the ORIC-1, there will be the ORIC Atmos, which is in fact the ORIC-2, but they changed the name. And after that, there should have been a Stratos computer, but in fact ORIC went bankrupt, was bought back by a French company, and they turned the Stratos into a final product called Telestrat, which is very, very rare, and I will do some more video on this beast later. Okay, and before we go on with the video, I had many complaints because last time I kissed ZX Spectrum, which I love, but my real love, my real beloved computer is the ORIC-1, so I must kiss him too, so there's no jealous. Okay, are you ready? Let's start first with a small story about the ORIC computer. The ORIC story begins in 1979 when Paul Johnson, Mark Rayner, Nigel Penton Tilbury found Tangerine Computer Systems in the Cambridge area in England. Their first product was the VDU 1648, a video card that transformed your screen into a full-fledged serial terminal. The card was first sold as a kit, then assembled, and was a great success among computer enthusiasts. Naturally, Tangerine offered add-ons for this card, including an hexadecimal keyboard, an alphanumeric keyboard, a graphics card, and even a modem. As early as March 1979, they announced that they were working on new projects, including a computer based on Zilog Z80 microprocessor and another one based on Motorola's 6800 CPU. But Tangerine also branched out into another aspect of computing, DataView or PETSCII, the English telematics network, the equivalent of the French videotex, whose terminals were Minitels. Thus, Tangerine launched several PETSCII terminals through their Tentel branch, a contraction of Tangerine and PETSCII. This is important to note because Tangerine, through its various products, was always keen to offer a modem or PETSCII access services, even in the future ORIC computer range. In early 1980, Tangerine offered its first real computer, the Microtan 65. This computer, based on a 6502 microprocessor, was sold as a kit for £69 plus VAT or £79 fully assembled. The basic version offered only 1K of ROM, 2K of ROM containing a simplified monitor, and a 32 columns by 60 lines text display. Everything else was optional: hexadecimal keyboard, alphanumeric keyboard, more RAM, lowercase characters, a low-resolution graphics display of 64 by 64 pixels, a high-resolution graphic display of 256 by 256 pixels, Microsoft Basic, a cassette interface, a serial output, a parallel output, etc. Even the power supply was sold as an option. It's clear that we were still in the early days of personal computing and that the Microtan 65 was aimed at enthusiasts capable of assembling a kit-based machine themselves. But the Microtan 65 was still quite successful in England and would serve as the basis for Tangerine's future systems, including the ORIC. It was also at this time that Tangerine created another branch, Tensoft, dedicated to producing software for the Microtan and later ORIC, and headed by Paul Kaufman. In 1982, Tangerine announced the Microtan 2, renamed TD3000, then Tiger, then Tigress. It was an ambitious computer equipped with 3 processors, the main one being a Z80 with 64K of RAM to run CP/M, a 6809 CPU to manage inputs and outputs, and a dedicated graphics processor supported by 96 kilobytes to manage the display. On top of the central unit was a dedicated monitor with 2 5-inch floppy disk drives built in. The concept was eventually sold to HH Electronics, who marketed it under the name HH Tiger. Unfortunately, the computer was a monumental flop and quickly fell into oblivion. Regardless, Tangerine was already working on a new project, an inexpensive color home computer. Thus, the ORIC-1 was released in January 1983, directly competing with Sinclair's ZX Spectrum. For the occasion, Tangerine created another structure dedicated to market this new computer, ORIC Products International. At the time of its release, the 16 kilobyte version of the ORIC-1 was the first color computer to be sold under £100, a small revolution in itself. But it was mainly the 48 kilobyte models that would sell well. For £170, you got 48 kilobytes of RAM, an 8-color display, a high graphic resolution of 240 by 200 pixels, and a real built-in sound synthesizer. The following year, in 1984, the ORIC Atmos was released, an improved version of the ORIC-1. It was in fact the same machine, but with a real high-quality mechanical keyboard and a new updated ROM, removing some bugs from the ORIC-1 and adding a few instructions to the BASIC. The ORIC Atmos was, in fact, what the ORIC-1 should have been from the start. Here again, it was a success, particularly in France, where it was one of the best-selling computers in 1984. In the midst of euphoria, ORIC announced that it was working on several new systems, including the Stratos, the successor to the Atmos. But 1985 was a difficult year for many 8-bit computers manufacturers, and after many ups and downs, ORIC International went into liquidation, but was finally acquired in 1986 by the French company Eureka. And yes, that's how ORIC became French. The Stratos prototypes were recovered and improved, ultimately resulting in the Telestrat, a computer entirely focused on telematics, and released in 1986. Unfortunately, it was priced too high and aimed at a too specific usage. It wasn't enough to save ORIC, which closed its doors for good in December 1987. End of the story.
Like humans, computers have memories. Unlike humans, their memories shrink when they work. Functions like color, sound, and movement use up large amounts of memory, leaving little for you to use. The new ORIC Atmos, however, takes these functions in its stride, leaving lots of memory, so you can expand into advanced programming and sophisticated games. The new ORIC Atmos 48K, the large memory that stays large.
Okay, let's have a look at the ORIC-1 on his podium to appreciate the curves of the case, the lines. It's well designed. It's a nice design. It's a small computer from the 1983 with not a rubber keyboard. It's more like a calculator type keyboard. And I can tell you that though some people say it's crap or it's not a good keyboard, of course it's not a mechanical keyboard, but it was in fact quite nice, and I spent many years typing on this, and at the time I didn't think about my keyboard being bad. We see at the back there are some connectors. The first one is the power supply, is 9 volts, then you got the expansion port, then the printer port, then the tape interface, then RGB video out, and then UHF antenna video output. The keyboard is quite classic. I mean, it's QWERTY one with escape key, control key, return key, a large space key, arrows around the space bar, 2 shift keys, and otherwise it's quite classic disposition. No, only letters and symbols. It's not a simpler type where you press a key and you got instantly the whole basic command. Now you got to type all the letters of the commands. But that's fine. If we turn over the computer, we can see underneath, and in fact the computer is quite small. The top of the case is made larger to put the keyboard in it, but in fact the motherboard of the electronic board itself, it's just here, quite small. If we compare with the ZX Spectrum, for example, we see that the ZX Spectrum is even a bit larger than the motherboard of the ORIC-1. So underneath the computer are 4 small rubber pads. This is the 48K model. There have been, of course, a 16K model, but which wasn't sold for a long time. Here we have holes in the circle. It's for the sound to come out of the computer. When we will open the system itself, we see that underneath that there is quite a big speaker, and that was one of the problems of the ORIC-1 or the Atmos, is that you can't control the volume of the sound output, and it's very loud. So if you wanted to play in your bedroom like at midnight without your parents knowing, it was impossible. Here we have a small metallic plate which tells you that the warranty is invalid if you remove that, and you have to remove that to access the last screw to open the computer. There is also here the serial number. There is one thing we didn't talk about, it's this small hole here. You see, if I press here, I hear a button noise. It's a reset button. They've hidden the reset button inside the motherboard, inside the case. It's difficult to access, maybe because they didn't want you to push by inadvertence the reset button, but that's quite strange too. I think it's a cost reduction choice, to leave the button right on the motherboard itself and not somewhere else on the case. Because this is not a cold reset, this is a warm reset. If you press it, you don't lose your program, it just resets itself. And if you find an ORIC, you will notice that most of them have pen traces around the hole, because at the time, if you wanted to reset your ORIC, you had to flip it over and insert a pen inside, to push the reset button. So there are always some ink traces around the ORIC-1. Okay, we can have a quick look at the ORIC Atmos, which is the same computer released 1 year later. It's the same case form factor, in fact, same size, but they changed some design. Of course, it's black and red, and it's very beautiful, very original at the time compared to other computers. There are now labels, above the connections, so you know what there is underneath, like a tape, RGB, printer, expansion, power, and so on. The keyboard, of course, it's the main change, the main improvement. It's a very good mechanical keyboard, I can tell you, because I've used it for many years programming. Of course, the label here is different too. It's named ORIC Atmos 48K, and here we might think that it's a sound output like we saw underneath the ORIC-1, but it's not, because the holes are plain, in fact. I think I've read somewhere that they wanted to make real holes for the sound, but at the last time it was too fragile. It was not possible with the company who made the case for them. So they left the holes plains like this, like a mock-up. But it's nice too. And here, I don't know if you can see the plastic here on this band, on this plate, it's a bit different. It's more glossy, and it adds to the nice design of the ORIC Atmos. But apart from that, the ORIC Atmos is exactly the same as the ORIC-1. I mean, inside it's the same electronic board, the same motherboard, only the content of the ROM is a bit different. In fact, the ORIC Atmos is what the ORIC-1 should have been from the start. Okay, I think we can now try to open the ORIC-1 and see what's inside. Okay, I've removed 5 screws out of 6. This is the last one. This one was underneath the metal plate that I told you we saw just earlier. So I removed this one, and once you've removed the last screw, you just have to lift the bottom of the case, and you got access directly to the motherboard, to the electronic board. And that's very nice, because on most computers of the time, when you remove the bottom case, you got to be extra careful about not bending, you know, the keyboard cable like on the Spectrum. Here, nothing like this, because the electronic board is mounted backwards, in fact. You know, let's see, this is a computer, and the motherboard is on the other side. This is very handy. Just like this, you got access to the small electronic board. Beneath it is the keyboard electronic board with a rubber membrane we see just on the side. And so we can access and see what's inside without, you know, removing anything else. Perfect. So first thing we notice is the name of the board. It's called ORIC-1. It's issue 4, designed by Tangerine Computer Systems. Tangerine, as we saw in the history at the beginning of this video, is the company who made the Microton 65, the Tiger, and when they began to work on the ORIC-1, they decided to create a new company called ORIC Product International, but the motherboard is still labeled Tangerine. So here is the main chip, is the CPU, the 6502. It's an 8-bit CPU, of course, running at 1 MHz, used in many computers of the time. Underneath, you got the 6522 VIA chip, the versatile interface adapter. It's a chip that you often find associated with the 6502. They're meant to be together because the VIA manage many things like interruptions, memory management, stuff like that. Very useful, very complementary to the CPU. On the left, we got the AY3 8912 from General Instrument. It's a synthesizer, a very good one, and the ORIC was one of the first to use this chip, and very successfully, because it was one of the main assets of the ORIC when it was released. You know, good graphics, high resolution, and excellent sound. It gives 3 channels plus 1 noise generator on, I don't remember, 6 octaves, I think. Very capable chip that you will find the same or its derivative in, for example, the ZX Spectrum +2, +3, in the Amstrad CPC, in the Atari ST, but ORIC was one of the first to use it. And since we talk about the sound, we can have a look at the main component on the board. You can't miss it. It's a big speaker, huge for the time compared to the size of the motherboard. And strangely enough, it's not glued on the case. It sits there on the small square. And but it doesn't fall when you close the plastic case, because it's held by the case. But this is why the ORIC computers are very loud sound, and you've got no way to reduce the sound, out of the box. It was very difficult for me, for example, to play on my ORIC at night because my parents would know right away that I was playing at the computer. So it's a good point, and at the same time, it's a weak point to have this speaker so loud, so powerful. Here you got 8 chips giving 64K of memory to the ORIC. 64, well, it's a bit much because, it says that it's a 48K. Yes, it's quite a strange way to do it, but the last 16Ks are hidden from the user. They are masked by the ROM at startup, but they can be used or replaced too by, for example, the disk drive. On the ORIC, you almost have 48K all the time that you got to manage with the video too, but it's one of the computers at the time which offered the most effective RAM for programming. And here you got the ULA, also called the gate array. It's the only chip that has been designed especially for the ORIC. It replaces a lot of small chips around that would have been necessary to make this computer a reality. It's exactly what we saw in the ZX81 on the Sinclair. They also made their own ULA. And inside you got thousands of logic gates to do special works, like, for example, here it manages some aspects of the video generation. It also deals with the clock rate. You see here is a clock, it's a 12 megahertz clock, but the ULA will use that to divide it into, for example, to use 6 megahertz for the display and then divide again to get the 1 megahertz necessary to run the computer with the CPU. Here it's a small chip which handles the tape interface. Here is a small LM386 amplifier used to amplify the sound coming from the GI chip, which goes after to the speaker. And there are other chips, I'm not going to detail everything. Is a UHF box to turn the video signal into one that can be used on TVs, when you plug the antenna here. Here you got the RGB video output, which is very good quality. Here we saw it earlier, it's a Centronics port for printers. Well, it's a reduction of Centronics because it doesn't have all the pins necessary to the real standard. But anyway, it's here. And here we got the expansion port used to plug in, expansions. Here is a power supply coming in here by 9 volts. And here you got the power regulator turning this 9 volts into 5 volts. Here you got the famous reset button I told you about. Lastly, here we have the ROM containing the 16K basic language. This is version 1.0 for the ORIC-1. And if you open up ORIC Atmos, you will find exactly the same thing, apart that the ROM is different. It's a version 1.1. And some people use this empty ROM space to put in there another ROM. For example, you can have the 1.0 and 1.1, and then you can switch which one you prefer by a small switch that you add on the side, which will give you maximum compatibility depending on which computer you would like to use, ORIC-1 or ORIC Atmos, depending on the program that you're trying to run. I like this motherboard. It's quite compact, it's clear. The funny large speaker is quite original. Now we're going to close the computer and try to power it on and see what happens. Okay, now we are ready to test the ORIC-1. I have connected the video lead to my TV, and we just have to switch it on. There's no switch. You just have to plug and unplug. It's a bit of pity, but it's like that. And here it is. You got the basic prompt right away. So at the top of the screen, we can read ORIC Extended Basic version 1.0. This is the version you find on the ORIC-1, whereas on the ORIC Atmos, it's a version 1.1. The basic is copyrighted by Tangerine in 1983, And for the record, in fact, Tangerine, who designed the ORIC, had a Microsoft license, but for the Tangerine company. And when they went on to build the ORIC, they founded a new company, ORIC Product International, and they thought, yeah, but it's quite expensive. We're not going to tell Microsoft that we are going to use their BASIC, so we're just going to call it Tangerine and we're going to use the same license. So they modified a few things, but it's really Microsoft BASIC. Another thing which is very important is that you see we have almost 48 kilobytes free for the user, free to program something. And this is very rare. In general, at the time, everybody was lying. In the adverts, for example, they're always saying, yeah, we got 64K, 32K, but it was quite often a lie. They were adding the RAM with the ROM, with the video memory, and so on. And when you switched on your computer, in fact, you didn't have much left to program. Here, you have 48K, the whole memory they promised, it's here. So it's quite noticeable, and it's quite a lot of memory at the time for you to program. The display is a classic text one with 40 columns on 26 lines. There is one reserved line up there where you see caps reserved for the system. So the system display here when you load something or when you're using the disk drive and so on. But with some POC commands, the user can display what he wants there. First thing I want to show you is by using the paper command. For example, paper 4 changes the background. There are 8 colors available on the ORIC. And with the ink command, I can change the foreground. Here it's better, ink 7 is for white. And if I do something like plot 10, 10, hello, it will display the text hello at coordinates 10 by 10. If I want to display something else, so at the same columns, but just underneath, so line 11, and I want to change the color, I've got to put an escape code plus another code to tell the computer that I want the background to be red, and then Olympics. Well, it displayed Olympics at a line under hello, so it's okay, but it's not just under the H of hello. And this is weird, and this is what I wanted to show you, that if you want to change the color on an ORIC, the color information itself will take 1 byte, 1 character on the display plane. And if you look very carefully in the games that we're gonna see later, when there is color, there is always like a black mask around the sprite, around the moving objects, because you got to reserve 1 character to define the color of what's coming next, and after the object, you have to reserve another block to tell the computer, okay, stop the color and continue to display everything else like it was. So that's a real constraint, like a color clash of the ZX Spectrum, well known for this, because when you designed the computer, the color information took a lot of memory. If you wanted to be able to define every color for every pixel, like on the computer links, for example, it would take a lot of memory, so it would cost more to build, and the price of the computer would be much more expensive. So here they made this choice. It's like this. We are in text mode, but there is also a low resolution text mode 0, which turns black. And we'll not detail this, it's never used. But there is another low resolution mode, low res 1. And here everything is turning into funny characters that you can't understand, like semi-graphic characters predefined, like on the Sinclair ZX81 or the Commodore PET, or on and on. It's here, it's in the ORIC ROM, but it's never used. In fact, it's because Tangerine always wanted to keep their computers compatible with the Prestel and DataView standard, which is like the British Minitel, telematic stuff. And so in the ORIC, there are things like that to be compatible with this type of display. Okay, let's go back to the text mode and let's talk about the sound. in the ORIC, there are some predefined sounds like zap, ping, shoot, or explode. This is very specific to the ORIC, and I've never seen that on other computers. And it was very, very used in programs because it was a very easy way to make some sounds. But of course, you've got more instructions, more commands to play with a real synthesizer built in the ORIC. The first command I will show you is the sound command. For example, if I type this little program, I can use the sound command on the first channel, the pitch of the loop, and at full volume. I run this and listen carefully. Yeah, that's right. That's the easiest way to play sounds on the ORIC. There is also a music command used to play notes, because whereas with a sound command you can play any pitch, with the music it's already predefined on the 12 notes, and you just have to choose the number of the note and which octave, and it plays music. But there is another more powerful command, which is play. If I play on the first channel, no noise, envelope 3 and duration 1000. With only one command, you can achieve a very nice effect. If I play the same thing with the white noise channel open and another envelope, for example, the number 6 for a duration of 1000, I've got another sound effect, which is nice. If you play just a few minutes with a play command, you can achieve very nice sound effect. And if you play with sound, play, music, you really can make really nice things. The synthesizer in it is very powerful, and we will see in the games and in the demos later that you can achieve a very impressive sound and music. Okay, now let's go to the high resolution mode with the high-res command. This is quite special to the ORIC2 because the high resolution plan is above, and at the bottom of the screen I still have 3 lines of text to type my commands, and both text and graphics are not mixed. It's not like the ZX Spectrum, for example. And you have commands like curset to display a pixel at coordinates 100, 100, for example. Here it is. And you have also instruction like circle to draw a circle of 50 pixel radius. Here it is. You got another original command, which is pattern, and you specify a number between 0 and 255, for example 68. From here, everything that I will draw will be drawn with a pattern corresponding to the binary of this number. For example, pattern 68, and I will draw another circle of 80 radius. Here, it's dotted, there is pattern, and I got to change the pattern to 255 to make it back to plain drawing. If I use the draw command, I will draw lines, for example, 80 pixels towards the right and 30 pixels down with the foreground color. And here it is. Well, we will not go any deeper. It was just to show you the different feature of the ORIC very quickly: color, sound, high resolution. And for the time, it was very impressive computer, very affordable, one of the most affordable ones, but also one offering high resolution, 8 colors, amazing synthesizer in it, 48K to program. It was amazing. I mean, at least in France, when it appeared, the ZX Spectrum was not imported yet. the Commodore 64 was way too expensive, and this is why the ORIC went very well in our country. The rest of the basic is a classic Microsoft one with repeat until, read data, restore. There is a wait command, to pause the programs too. It's quite handy, but the rest is classic. Okay, so enough being serious. Now I want to play some games, test the computers to see what it's capable of. Alright, so we have seen and tested the basic language, a few commands just to show you the main features of the ORIC-1, and now we can taste one game or two to see what it's capable of. For this, we're gonna use the Loki expansion, which is quite new. There have been several modern expansions of this type available over the years for the ORIC to help you load and save program more easily in a modern way. We had the Erebus, the Cumina drive, or of course you could use virtual digital tapes and so on, but this one is quite new and is very handy with a lot of options. I will make a special video on the Loki anytime soon. It is plugged on the expansion port of the ORIC. I have inserted USB key. I press the red button and I've got access to a lot of options. This one is important. I turn the virtual cassette tape on, then I choose one of the games. This one will be Zorgon Revenge. All right. ORIC-ROM, no, I want the ORIC-1, because with the Loki, you can choose what ROM you want to use. So I've got an ORIC-1, but if I want it, I will load the Atmos ROM, reboot, and then voila, I've got an Atmos computer. Okay, so we can boot. Now the virtual tape has been inserted. I type cloud, which means cassette load, return. And here it is, Zorgon Revenge by John Sinclair, with our little hero, which must save a princess, Princess Rose, which has been abducted by the very mean Zorgon, and I must, play several levels in order to reach the castle and free the princess. Zorgon's Revenge is one of the first games available for the ORIC. It was released in 1983 by EGK, but surprisingly enough, it's one of the best games. I don't know how, but John Sinclair was mastering the computer perfectly only a few months after it was available on the market. It's incredible. So I press space bar to play this music. It's all my childhood. I played this game so many times. What is interesting in this game is that you have to choose one number, from 1 to 4, and it will give you a random level. For example, if I press 1, I've got the space level, and with my spaceship, I must shoot several other baddies. When I've shot 10 of them, a special spacecraft will appear, okay, and it will give me a stone. A stone which I will use here to build a bridge to reach the princess. I must be careful not to die. Okay, and so you see the stone is going down, building the bridge, and I need 4 stones like this. This is why there are 4 levels. Okay, press 2, for example. This is the hardest one. I hate this one. So you got to cross the play field, avoiding the eggs or rocks falling from the sky. And you've got to grab the tail of the bird so it can bring you on top on the second platform. You must cross again. See the power of the sound chip, and here it's very difficult. You have to jump in the air, hoping to grab the tail, but this is the most difficult part of this game. Okay, number 3. What is it? Hydra. Hydra is difficult too because you got to jump above his shot. Wow! and the timing is very tough. Okay, and what is number 4? 4 is a spider. I can manage that, I think. So you see, every levels are different, colorful, animated, smooth. It's a very nice game with a lot of surprises. But very demanding too. You can't make any mistakes. Okay, jump, free the T-Rex, and you must jump on the platform soon enough. Oh, I've jumped too late. So sorry, I will not show you the last level in the castle, but it's very difficult to go there. That was one of the first games available for the ORIC, and I think it is very interesting. In fact, it's a follow-up of Xenon 1, which is another excellent game by John Sinclair. What is interesting in all the ORIC games over the years is that there are thousands of games, very interesting one, very original ideas. It was the beginning of the video game industry in England and in France, for example. In France, the ORIC was very important. It sold very well. And because of this computer, it started the beginning of the video game industry. And nowadays we have big companies like Ubisoft or Infogram. They came from here. They came from the ORIC. They developed their first games on the ORIC. So it was a really important computer here, which started a lot of things. I can only recommend you to test a lot of ORIC games because they are very nice. I will make more video, of course. If you're interested, you can tell me in the comments about ORIC games. Maybe, test some more or make a video about the 20 most impressive ORIC games. I've got to show you another game which is also interesting. Okay, now I wanted to show you another game which is also quite impressive, and it's called L'Aigle-d'Or, released in 1984, 1 year after Zorgon Revenge. So let's load the game. Whoa! Look at that! It's impressive, no? Wow, L'Aigle-d'Or, programmed by Louis-Marie Roch in 1984 and published by Logiciel. Yeah, see, all this introduction makes really good use of the synthesizer inside the ORIC. We heard the 3 voices for the music. We heard the noise channel for the storm and the lightning. So what is this game? It's an adventure action game, and it was quite a new concept in 1984. This game was very impressive at the time. When it came out in France, because it's a French game, everybody was like, wow, it's impressive, but does it run on a very powerful computer, or what system can make this? And in fact, it was the ORIC, because the programmer was good. This new concept was original. Option 1 is to enter the castle. And here it is. In fact, you control yourself, a hero, at the third person. You see it, and you move the character in the castle in real time, going from door to door. You've got a description at the top of the screen and some informations here on the 3 lines of text we saw earlier. And, well, you have to find the golden eagle. And there will be many traps, many secrets, many things to do, like jump over things like this, or like this. Or you got to climb ropes, drink some bottles you find. Of course, this is a kind of games that you had to make a map, drawing a map, because it was impossible to to remember where you were going. So this part was one of the exciting thing at the time, you know, to draw your maps of the castle, discovering time after time, games after games, the size of the castle, where were things, what you had to do. It's really important game for the ORIC and for the French video game business at the time. It was adapted to many other computers, including the Thomson MO5, and I've made one of my first French videos was about this game, was dedicated to this game. So if you want to know more, to see the many secrets, the many rooms, and if you want to see the golden ingot, because at the end I find it, well, go ahead and go look at my first video made a few years ago. I'm not very proud of it because it was a bit strange. So here it is, there is a trap. You see these small dots on the ground. Well, if I just continue to walk, well, I just fell into a pit. But hopefully for me, I have a rope. Well, I thought I had a rope. It's strange. Normally I have a rope and I can climb up to leave the pit. Well, anyway, I wanted to show you this game because it was quite impressive at the time and it first appeared for the ORIC-1 computer. Okay, now let me show you a modern game, a homebrew game. Okay, now to be complete, I wanted to show you a homebrew. That is to say, a game recently produced for the ORIC computers. Every year there are several nice games that are released by passionate people that still develop all these old systems. And the choice was large. I could have shown you a lot of things, but I've chosen this game, Attack of the PETSCII Robots by David Murray. That is to say, the 8-bit guy, and this excellent game has been converted to many old computers, including the ORIC computers. We start game. David Murray developed the game in 2020, I think, and this ORIC version was programmed by Dusan Strakel and Simon Luce. So bravo at them, it's an excellent work. We're not gonna play long, but just wanted to show you how fast this was, how precise are the graphics. This is something we could have think impossible for the ORIC at the time, and they made an excellent job, even if it's monochrome, because you know you have color clashes. It's difficult to manage, so you have to make choice. It's a bit like the Spectrum. And this is kind of game that you could have found at the time on the ZX Spectrum, but never found on the ORIC, especially this fast. Whoa! Game over. Well, I don't know how to play. I'm just discovering the game. But it was just to show you an example of a modern game for the ORIC. Okay, last thing I wanted to show you is a small demo. Demos are made by passionate people who knows what they're doing on small computers like this, and they're trying to put out the maximum of what can do the ORIC. So let's finish with an extract of a demo. Let's be surprised about what these little beasts can do. Wow, impressive, isn't it? Well, I hope this video wasn't too long, but I think it was important to go into details of the external aspect of these computers, the internals of this computer, a more technical aspect, and then we tested some games, the basic language, demo, homebrew. What else? I think and I hope that you know more now about the ORIC computers. And I would like to hear from you in the comments. If you happen to have had these computers when you were young, please tell me your memories. Did they help you to work in IT after with your professional career? Did they change a bit your life at the time? What was the impact of these computers on your future? Well, thanks a lot to have watched this video until now. I don't know if it's too long or not, but I thought it was important to look at all the things, to know more about these computers. If you like my videos, please subscribe. It's very important for me. You also have SuperThanks underneath this video where you can make micro donations if you want. I will also put a link in the description of my French channel. Maybe you want to see more of my videos with subtitles, because I've done many more videos over the years in French, but I will try to make some old French videos in English now, and of course I will continue on this channel, on this English speaking channel, to do a lot more videos each week. Thanks a lot, see you soon, bye!